So today my guest is sports writer and photographer Laieke Abebe. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Dylan. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, it's great to be with you finally. So can you talk to me about kind of the work that you do? I know that you're a very local sports guy, so can you talk about the teams you cover and the region that you cover?
Absolutely. At first I could tell the whole story about the sports writing game. I guess for me, I started really writing about sports in 2016, but I was like writing for sites like Fansided and SB Nation, talking about professional sports teams. And while it was really fun. It was great to get my feet wet, get into sports writing a little bit. But it kind of set the tone for me as a sports writer, trying to just see what I could do with it. And I ended up like really discovering it more at East Carolina because I'm a student at ECU. So like I really wanted to figure out like what kind of sports writer do I want to be and who do I want to give back to, like. And then that's how I kind of got started writing locally around Eastern North Carolina. I started in like 2018, and it was my friend Kai Jones. Kind of looks like me. You probably have seen him before. Um, we started this company called We Journal Great Sports, WJG Sports, like it says on my shirt here. And it was really talked about for a few months, and then last year is when we officially started it, and tomorrow will be the 1 year anniversary of when we started it, and we got over 1,000 YouTube subscribers now, and we're very thankful for that. But I also been writing for sports newspapers while also getting video highlights and photos of high school sports around several counties in Eastern North Carolina, including Pitt. So like pretty much Pitt County, North Carolina, and just about every surrounding county there, and then a little bit of branching into Johnston County, which is closer to the Raleigh area. But really just Eastern North Carolina in general, like the 252 area code, which is like the true east, like anything east of I-95, pretty much is where I've been able to cover high school sports at, whether it was writing or taking video highlights. So it's been an incredible experience for sure.
Yeah, and congrats on the 1 year, man. That's so cool. 1,000
Thank
subscribers.
you.
Um,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
so I remember when we first started to talk a little bit, and I remember when you got that blue check. And does that kind of like make your writing feel a little bit more like recognized when you have that and you post stuff and it kind of looks official?
Well, funny you mentioned the blue check. And no, it's a great question. Really, I always say that I'm kind of the same person with or without it. I still am trying to make my way as a sports writer with or without it. Uh, I'm not sure what really makes my writing official and like stuff like that is the support I have from the community, and whether it's support or even criticism, everything helps, and it's good to have positive influences on me in this local sports writing gig. And there are countless people I can thank, like Junior Smith III from ENCMoments.com. Kai, of course, I'll probably mention Kai many times in this. I mean, plenty of like Bud Hardy, who does photography and based out of Kinston, North Carolina, and surrounding areas. He helped me get better as a photographer. Really, I could name so many people that are really good, like Trey Corden, Hoop Farm Mixtapes, he does video highlights for basketball in the area. Anthony Bruton, Bucket Reel, is one of the best, and he's based out of Kinston as well, but he's now moved to Georgia and done work in that area. I mean, I like really just like Antonio Wiggins, Street Style Nation out of Williamston, North Carolina. There's plenty of people who have influenced me into becoming better at photography, writing, and videography. And really, it's been great to branch out like that. So really, like the the blue check really, it doesn't mean too much to me. I mean, it looks cool. People always ask me that question, how'd you get it? How'd you get it? And that was a long time ago when I was influenced by former coworker of mine at Fansided to try and apply for it. And I didn't think much of it until I realized I had it when I walked into one of my classes early in the morning. I just looked at my account. I was like, what? I felt like I didn't feel too deserving of it, but I feel like the platform I built on Twitter specifically, since that's where the blue check is at, the Twitter platform I built took so many years to build, and I mean, I'm still trying to grow it as much as I can, but I want to branch out and try and be a good social media influencer on every app I could use. I mean, I'm not just limited to Twitter. And then, I mean, I started my own personal highlights page, Striker highlights put together. But really, the blue check doesn't mean much. What the only thing that means something to me is being a positive influence in the community and giving back to the kids so they can have a platform that they can be represented on and they can showcase how talented they are, not just in sports, but in the classroom too.
For sure, man. And how does social media kind of make that, giving those kids a platform easier or more convenient?
Well, another good question. Social media is really big now. I mean, it's kind of started early in the last decade, and it's really built and built and built, and now social media is this huge thing. Like, it's just really, it's huge. Every app, like everything is kind of like social media oriented, which is why it is, I will admit, even as someone who has written for and still writes for many newspapers from Goldsboro to Greenville to Kinston to other places, it is really hard to be a full-time writer at a newspaper in any topic, especially sports. I mean, obviously a lot of papers have become more digital oriented, more online stuff. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, it seems that with the age of technology that we're in now, it seems that social media and internet-based online reading and stuff has kind of become more important, and it's kind of been the trend for all newspapers. But I mean, it's been good and bad, I'll say. I mean, but more good. I think that it kind of just depends on where specifically, what kind of area you're in. But I mean, the thing about like videography and photos, that people love getting photos of them doing the things they love, and people love seeing highlights of them crossing somebody up, doing an ankle breaker, like one-handed catches on a football field, a good volleyball spike, a home run hit. I mean, people really love that stuff and eat that stuff up. So I mean, I mean, I do think there. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you know this. Sometimes there are a lot of downsides to social media too. I mean, it might be a negative influence in terms of debate and stuff like that, but it's also good. I mean, it helps showcase, like, at least from the local demographic that I'm in now. I mean, it seems that social media and seeing all this other stuff, like seeing highlights and stuff of you like doing something and being really good at it, you never know. Like, it could help a college coach see that you're talented and could recruit them. It could help them, like it helps a sports writer and other areas, sports writers in other areas see that our area is cool too. And it really, it's like a cycle. Like every area, depending on like whether it's for newspapers or for videographers who take highlights all the time in specific sport, it could show that like an entire state is really good at athletics, and it's kind of a cycle that kind of goes around.
And with those, the highlights that people really want to see, has there ever been like an athlete that got recruited because of your highlights, or they got, recognized because of something that you wrote or took pictures of or highlights of?
Well, I mean, I would like to take credit for some, but I really don't want to take any credit because it's all about them. It's about the athletes. It's not about. It's great that we are able to. In the area I'm in, it's very hard for kids to get recruited. I feel like the place I'm in, the 252 area code, is one of the more under-recruited places, not just in North Carolina, but the entire Southeast and the rest of the country, I would say. But it's in such a good place now. It was started by guys like Anthony Bruin, who constantly covered in the 252 area code and parts of the 910 area code and parts of the 919 that don't get as much coverage as other places. And really, it was just he's part of how it got started here, and now a lot of people have come here to the eastern part of the state and have made their roots here. And we all have a common goal. There seems to be a disconnect in North Carolina media right now, at least in the sports media. But the common thing, and what's funny is I had this conversation with Kai. See, I told you I was going to mention him. But we had this conversation today on our podcast that we're going to air tomorrow. If you'll allow me to plug it later, I will.
Absolutely.
But yeah. But we had this conversation. The common denominator and the common thing we all have to have is that it has to always be about the student athletes that we cover in every sport, girl or boy. It doesn't matter what sport it is either. The common thing that we all have to have is that this has to be about them. It can't be about trying to make profit for us. I mean, we do have to make profit for us. I mean, and it's hard to do that in sports media right now, obviously with everything going on. But I mean, we all will set our differences aside if it's for the kids, and that's how it has to be, which is why I don't want to take credit for any kid's success because of like a highlight tape we put on them. If people are willing to give us the credit, I mean, that's great. We do appreciate that, but it's always about the kid and how talented they are. And we're just here for them, and they're the ones that are doing the incredible work, and we're here to watch and show how great they are.
Absolutely. And when you started, were you doing like sports journalism at ECU? Was there a program there?
There was, but I actually was not a part of it. And the funny thing is, how I got started writing locally in Eastern North Carolina kind of happened because I didn't go and work for the school's college newspaper, the East Carolinian, which is, it wasn't a bad thing it wasn't anything about the paper. It was just, I lacked some self-confidence in myself. I lacked confidence. I still do. I'm not going to lie. But really, Kai had been trying to get me to write at the East Carolinian for years. My entire college tenure, you tried to get me to come and write about sports at the East Carolinian, and I would turn them down because at first I was a chemistry student. Like that was my major. I majored in chemistry. Now I'm back. I'm getting a communications degree, and now here we are. So, like, really not working for the East Carolinian, in a way, he finally got me to start working at the Kinston Free Press. That was in 2018, right in the summer months of 2018. And that's how it really got started for me. And that's kind of how, I don't know if that really answered your question, but not working at a place ended up working in my favor, I guess, and finding a place where I could start and then try and build my own platform for myself, I guess.
Yeah. And as you're mostly a freelancer, correct?
Yes, correct. I've been doing work, I started, in terms of my timeline, I started at the Kinston Free Press 2018, my friend Jake Keeter, who was a college friend of mine and is still a very good friend of mine, he helped me get started at the Daily Reflector, which is Greenville's newspaper, Greenville, North Carolina's newspaper, writing about high school sports in that area. And then Avi Smoka, another person that I have to thank very much. He got me started in the Wayne County, Goldsboro area with the Goldsboro News Argus. Junior Smith III, who helped me with getting into Noose News, and his new site, encmoments.com, which covers Lenoir County, Kinston, and that area. If you don't know, Kinston has the highest rate per capita of producing NBA players. Of course, let's see. I know I'm missing a few, but I'm really thankful for all of them, really. Like, oh, and the Washington Daily News, I got to thank Sean Finnerty and Mitchell Thomas too. They've kind of helped me like continue to write for about Beaufort County and Little Washington, North Carolina. So really, like, it started in 2018, and now here, of course, with everything going on, I haven't been able to write as much or do a lot of videography or photos as much as I would love to do so, because if there's an excuse for me to use this camera, then I'd love to go anywhere and use it. But really, that's kind of how my time, it started with the Free Press in 18, and now here we are in 2020 in WJG Sports and still writing about high school sports for the papers.
And when you're writing for like a paper versus freelancing for social media, what do you kind of keep in mind about like the audience? Because you talked a little bit about like feedback, whether it's positive or negative. And when you write for a newspaper, you don't necessarily get that as much directly to the journalist. So how does that kind of change how you write, if at all, with social media?
Good question. Really, when it comes to writing, like, I don't really write too much like social media related stuff. Like, about, like, I don't write anything for like my own personal website, which it could be different if I did that. I mean, I did work on a web design class, and I did work on having my own website. And I might come back to it and actually like build it more, but really it was just writing about more. It was more primarily writing about like writing like AP style for a newspaper, and it didn't really matter what type of audience I was attracting. I was just attracting anybody interested in high school sports, and like maybe a kid could see their name in the paper, or a picture of them in the paper, and it could be really cool. And there are like so many things. And the thing about writing for the papers is that I've been so blessed to cover some incredible events, from the John Wall Holiday Invitational, which is held in Raleigh. It's probably the biggest high school basketball event on the calendar anywhere. Really, like, getting to cover state championship games at college venues like NC State. I mean, getting to go there, getting to cover high school basketball games at East Carolina. Like, I didn't think I actually get to be on the floor while everybody, like, seeing all my friends that are all just sitting in the stands, and I'm on the floor, like, right in front of the action. And it's been a great experience, but it doesn't really affect my writing like that, to be honest with you. Like, I just write based on who's interested. I mean, there are a lot of people who still love prep sports and local sports, which is it's a great thing. You got to support local, and it's good to have. It is good to have feedback, whether negative or positive feedback. I'm open to all of it. So really, my writing is just based on the interest of those who love what I write about.
Sure. And which social media outlet do you think, you talked about Twitter and how you've got the blue check on there, but which one do you think is the most important for a journalist who is, that has a lot of different skills and a lot of different assets, as you do with videography, photography, writing, that kind of thing? What do you think should be the most important for journalists like that?
Well, I mean, the correct answer would really be all of them, but it depends on, it actually depends on the age demographic a little bit. And especially if you're a videographer, like kids love Instagram. They love Instagram, and they will eat that content up on Instagram. Especially if you're a videographer, and especially if you're a really good one. People love, like kids love Instagram. I mean, of course I do love Twitter. I mean, sometimes it's kind of love hate. Of course, I'm sure you know this, but like Twitter's great too. I mean, it's good to have your name talked about all the time on there. I mean, but it really depends on an age demographic. But like for the age demographic for videographers is really pretty much for young adults to like teenagers and on down. Really, like those people love like their basketball highlights. I know I've really focused on basketball, but it's really every sport. But they love seeing themselves, like I said, they love seeing themselves go up for a dunk, an ankle breaker, one-hand catch, all that other stuff, like a home run, and even funny moments in games, like where you get caught on camera and you're doing like a funny dance or something, and it's really cool, and all your friends are enjoying it, and like also like the crowd having a good time, like a family type atmosphere. So like I guess for videography stuff, really, and for photography stuff, Instagram would probably be the way to go. But Twitter is also not a bad thing, and Facebook's not a bad thing, and really just about any social media app is really good, I would say. But primarily Instagram for videography, I would say.
Do you see TikTok making its way to journalism?
Oh my goodness, TikTok seems to be the wave as well for the kids, I will say. I'm not sure if for like true experienced journalists, like that also depends on age demographic too. I mean, it's really it really just depends. But TikTok, I'm sure TikTok is very popular even among adults too. I mean, it just seemed to have really picked up as a trend over the last several months.
Mm-hmm. And for someone that's shot as many, big events like you were talking about, with photos and videos, how do you think a journalist who focuses on more of the visual storytelling and highlights should brand themselves?
Well, I mean, people go about it in a different way. Obviously, the common goal is to generate cool highlight videos that make good business for you and like generate views on a YouTube channel and all this other stuff. But like I said earlier, it just, you have to be, obviously you got to be a high character person. You got to have some form of media ethics, I would say. And I know there are plenty of people that lack that, whether they're my age or they're older. People also have to know, like journalists at an older age have to know that because of the age of technology and stuff like that, you'll see a lot of younger people with a video camera in their hand at certain events. And like, I remember, I forgot where it was, but like you could see there was this basketball event and all these people kind of my age, your age and my age, with a camera, and they're out there like filming games and stuff. And it seems cool and stuff, but like an older journalist took a picture of them and like put them down, and it caused a lot of outrage on social media. And really, like, the age of the type of journalism kind of has changed a little bit with like online stuff and stuff like that. So really, I mean, whether you do like video journals and stuff and highlights, like that is a story itself. It is. And whether you write it up or you put it on video, I mean, everything's going to be told in a different way. The same story can be told so many different ways. So really, just it's kind of different, and like it's the age demographic thing again, man. It just seems like things are so different for someone who is older versus someone who is our age, because we go about things differently. There are a lot of people who are old school, a lot of people who are new school. It just depends on what type of person you are. But you do have to have some form of character and media ethics in some way. I think so.
How do you think social media plays a role in that age difference in the field?
Oh, it's significant. It's really, and I know there are people who I know there are people of the older demographic that have used social media to their advantage, which is great. And of course, there are people our age who do the same. So social media has a huge influence on all of us, really, whether it be good or bad. I mean, it is an influence on us in some way, because whether somehow most news kind of gets heard through social media. So it just seems to be that way now.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been victim to that before?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh man, I could name countless stories, but I don't think we have the time for that.
Right.
But that's still a good question, man. I mean, it's happened to me a few times, but I'm not sure if I want to disclose any of that stuff. But
sure.
you probably kind of know.
Yeah, I understand it. Yeah, completely.
Yeah,
so I don't want to take too much more of your time. I appreciate you being here. So what do you think that journalism would look like right now if social media was not a thing?
Oh yeah, it would significantly be different. But I bet people would try to make something of a social media platform to make something happen, and then we'd be back to what we're seeing right now, I think.
Right. And I got one last question for you. What do you think the future of social media journalism is? And for example, what could it look like 10 years from now?
Well, that's a really good question. I really think because of social media, there will be a lot more of, I mean, obviously online newspapers and writing stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of online based stuff, and it's going to really continue to grow, and it could hurt the actual print newspaper, the printing press and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it could really influence the decline of it. But honestly, I don't really see it happening for the foreseeable future. But you never know. I could be very wrong about it, and 10 years from now, it could be all gone, or it could be even several years after that, like several decades after that. So really, you never know. We just have to be ready to change on the fly, because the new age of technology will do that. It'll have to adapt.
Yeah. And before I let you go, ECU, are they going bowling this year?
That is as someone who is kind of a journalist that has to keep an unbiased cap on, realistically 6 wins, it can be done. I'm not sure. But I will say is, if there's one positive outlook on that, as long as we are able to have a season, they do return, I believe, all but 4 starters from last year, and they got some graduate transfers in from various schools, and really good recruiting class coming in for 2020. And I know I've talked with several ECU football players. They're chomping at the bit to get out there because they really want to go bowling. So if I had to take off my cap, I would say I hope so, absolutely. But, I mean, obviously it'll be difficult to do. The AAC is a tough conference to win games in, and we'll see. But 6-6 seems to be like a prediction, like a very generic prediction record for ECU football. We're looking. I say we're looking pretty good, and especially when you return a lot of offensive starters and a lot of players, young players who played a lot this past season. Year 2 under Mike Houston, so we'll see.
For sure. Nowhere to go but up.
Huh?
Nowhere to go but up.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, man. I know you've been meaning to do this with me for a while, and I hope you grow this, man. You got this. I'm proud of you, and keep up the good work, man.